Hey, how's it going? It's Grant with the Garden of Eater, and in this video, we'll be taking you on a tour of what I thought was the highest tech, nicest shrimp room I've ever seen. And I say was because sadly at the end of this video, we had to tear the whole thing down, catch thousands of shrimp, and bring them back to our place. So before we get started, I want to dive down into whose shrimp room this is, why he's got to tear it down, and why this is just a roller coaster of emotions for me. So first off, this all started about 10 years ago when I very first got into breeding shrimp in general. Not even Caridina shrimp, just shrimp, dwarf freshwater shrimp. Stumbled upon the shrimp spot, and well, one of the regulars on there was this guy named Plamski. And he was what I considered to be one of the vets who had already had things figured out and was a great source of information, and where I learned a lot of my early Caridina genetics, breeding projects, and all sorts of different types of tricks, methods, and tips through the shrimp method. And a lot of them were Plamskis that I ended up carrying on, and well, we use a lot of those still today. And well, for the last 10 years, I've wanted to visit Plamski's setup, and especially since he's also in Florida. He just so happens to be 4.5 hours south of us in Boca Raton, and well, it's just never really worked out. The cards never really played out until now, where we had to drive down there and help him sadly tear down his entire setup. So unlike the other two shrimp rooms that we had acquired, where they were basically retiring and on their way out, Plamski was in his prime and got horrible news that his apartment complex needed to re-renovate the entire structure of the building, and he had to get rid of all of his tanks by the end of the month. So this was basically an emergency situation where Shelby and myself drove down to help him capture all of these shrimp to move them up here. But first, I had to get all of his setup on film and record it and share it with you, because he doesn't share a lot of this online, and well, a lot of this I've never seen, and it was a lot of information. I learned a ton, and well, let's dive in. So Plamski was an engineer, and it definitely shows when you check out this setup. Everything was on his porch in southern Florida, and well, he had to get creative here. The walls were insulated with the same material that we make our lids out of, just a little bit thicker, double polycarbonated panels. Greenhouse plastic, it goes on the outside, he insulated it, and then basically made walls of his porch, and then AC'd with a little mini AC vent above the door, and the entire room was controllable with the bonus of fan boxes that he built himself out of little computer fans, and then what looked like hanging on the back filters to blow air to create evaporation to cool down the tanks even more. Also, some of these tanks were custom built, handmade by Plamski himself. He went through, built all his own dividers with stainless steel mesh in between, so that way water can flow and babies don't go through. Also, he built in some custom petri dishes or feeder dishes. And then on top of all of that, everything's got double filtration. So all the tanks have their own sponge filter. On top of it, they either have a hang on the back filter, canister filter, or they're all plumbed into one sump. This truly is an amazing setup. And just like us, he feeds every other day and 20% water changes every other week. And if the pH meter and all of that wasn't high tech enough, he was also getting very custom with the way he was swapping out his substrate. And I've never seen someone build substrate towers out of stainless steel mesh, and then he 3D printed his own caps, and then he would cycle them in a separate tank for a month or two before adding them to the tank, so that way the pH and everything like that was renewed and held stable with the new substrate, but it didn't go through that ammonia stage where it kind of leaches out some for the first few weeks. Also, all the tanks had these clay tubes. He stacked them up in the back of the tank, then he put the moss on top of that. The raised moss allowed him to view all the shrimp underneath, make sure there was no dead ones, and cull and do the best he could at grading and selecting. And then some of the moss was also kept up on moss ledges that he made himself. He custom built those as well as the breeder boxes. And then on top of all of that, he ran his lights for about 8 hours a day. And these were all T5 lights. Everything was on timers. This truly was a high-tech shrimp room. But now, let's take a look at the shrimp. On the very first rack, the very first shrimp that we saw, basically packed full to the brim, we've got some red calcios or golden dragons. This tank was beautiful. And this tank's also got a really nice clump of Physidens moss. But on top of that, all of the tanks on this rack are at 220 TDS, where the rest of the room is all kept at 150 to 160, very similar to what we do at our house. This next tank is one of my all-time favorites, Orange Eye Blue Tigers. He's got everything from some of the lower grades to some really nice high-grade Orange Eye Blue Tigers. And in this tank, we've got the Super Crystal Reds, some nice Santas, but also he's got some Mario balls in here. Mario. I don't know how you pronounce that exactly correctly. However, I think these might be true ones, but you got to be careful when you purchase these because a lot of them tend to be Cladophora, just compressed up into a little ball, and then it spreads and grows like crazy. But these ones, he says, have been growing very minimally for over 3 years now, so these ones might be true. But if yours just take off and go crazy, chances are you've got Cladophora, and that's going to be a bigger issue in the future. And now we've got some more calcios. However, these are the black ones, and just like the ones we have here at the house, because we got ours through Plamski, his also are throwing some of the hollow eye, orange eye phenotypes. And talking with him, I really do feel like these came from the hollow eye red ghost mutation. Something crossed in them to get these red calcios. Now moving on to a new rack. This one going to be 150 to 160 TDS, and it's jam-packed with blue bolts. In this tank, we've got another Taiwan bee. These are the Shadow Pandas, and you will see now a good little mix of all three of these Taiwan bees because they are Taiwan bees. They can throw all the varieties of them, even reds. And then this tank is mostly Shadow Missoura. The blue ones are definitely Shadow Misuras. The white ones are just Black King Kong Misuras, but these guys are a great tank. I'm really happy to have more genetics to be playing around with these and not just our hurricane survivors, but we do got another tank of those going now too. And then in the bottom tank, you really do got a cluster of all of the shadows, blue bolts, and even some Black King Kongs in here. Moving on to another rack, these are some really nice Red Galaxy Pintos. And then we've got some more blue bolts, but these ones are extreme, definitely the nicer of the colonies. And then another tank of blue bolts. You can definitely tell Plamski was getting ready to selectively breed these guys out and start working on them. And then we've got some more Red Galaxies. Not a lot of spots, but these got some nice color to them. And then we've got some blue bolts. No, I'm just kidding. These guys are blue steels. I was just testing you. It's the actually only blue steel colony of the whole room. And then we've got some Black Galaxy Pintos with a nice big old clump of mini Pelly. And then these will also throw some reds. So there's some of those floating around too. And more large mini Pelly, and then also some really nice red steels. Plamski's one of the only other people in the States that really focuses on the deep red pattern on the head, so it's really nice to get some more genetics to throw into ours at the house. And then more red steels, and another large clump of mini Pelly. I love this mini Pelly a lot. And then some more red galaxies. And yes, all of these are going to the house. Shelby is now not the only one with red galaxies. I gotta be able to take some of these. But these ones have some really nice spots. And well, there's some mixed grade in here too. But we're definitely gonna start fighting over some of these, Shelby. And then we got some lower grade blue bolts. But hey, who knows? There's somebody out there that prefers having the blue and white combination there. So there's a little bit of these. They'll be on the website if they're not already on there now. Check them out at tgoeshrimp.com. And then we got more low-grade blue bolts. So definitely got those available. You know, you need some. You got them. And then another tank of red galaxy mixed grade. You're definitely gonna let some of these go, Shelby, because like there's so many. There's like way more dots in the house now than there's ever been, that's for sure. And then we've got some red Taiwan bees, the red pandas. It's great to see another person dedicating so much time into keeping some pure Taiwan bees. And then just like that, sadly, you gotta go. You're out of the hobby, but everybody should comment down below to let Plamski know that he belongs in the hobby. He's gotta stick around, and well, he's gotta pass on this knowledge and keep it going, because these are truly some spectacular shrimp. And then you got some more Taiwan bees. These are the black King Kongs. These will also throw the blue bolts and shadow pandas as well as the reds. And then we've got some more black, nope, not some more. We've got some black spot head pintos. These guys are cool though. And now we've got some shrimp that are new to us. We don't have any of these until now. The orange-eyed black devils. There's also some orange-eyed lapis in there. So I'm really excited to work with these genetics, breed these out, and get going with a whole new line of shrimp. And of course, start crossing them right away and throwing whatever I can in there to figure out the genetics. And now we've got the fourth rack. And I honestly think that this rack might have some of the nicest shrimp in the entire room. Starting out, we have the, I forgot, Nanashi. These guys are the fancy tigers on steroids with the double pigment. They are, you know, the Nanashi, Nanansi, or Black Galaxy Tigers is what they got so many different names. Pick your poison, but they should have the back tiger stripes, the little tiger tooth, and then some type of head pattern. And they have some great coverage in this tank. Really nice job. And then he's got some black fancy tigers, very similar to the last shrimp, but these are a single pigment where the other ones are a double pigment. And then we're getting to the cool ones. We've got some red and blacks, but these guys are the purple metallic coloration onto them. He's got a couple of these tanks. This might be the cull tank, but it's still really cool to look at. And then this is the red purples, and well, it doesn't really show well on camera now that we've looked at the footage, but in person, these guys were really cool to see. Lots of purple coloration. It's a shame it didn't show up well on camera. And then he's got some fancy black tiger culls in this tank. You can tell there's some gaps in the pigmentation, not as nice coloration. And then he's got some really nice fancy red tigers. I really like the way these guys pop. And then we've got more purple reds. I can't believe I've never seen this many purple shrimp before. And then we've got some red spothead pintos. These are some German pintos, unlike the Galaxy pintos that have a ton of dots all around. These should just be centralized on the head. And then we've got not one, but two, but three tanks full of black Galaxy pintos on this row. But wait, there's more, because there's two whole rows of black Galaxy pintos It's absolutely nuts how much shrimp are in these tanks. You've got some coals in there, some steels, and some reds, of course. That's just the way the Galaxy Pinto jeans work. However, the bottom tanks are what's sad. There's no shrimp in there. He had just recycled all of those with brand new substrate so he could start selecting all of the top shrimp and move them down. But these guys are jam-packed with different colored and different spots, so we'll be grading and separating those out in the house. We've got a lot of work cut out for us with just these alone. And then we've got the 5th rack, and well, we got some more fancy red tigers. And when I asked him where he got his fancy red tigers from, he said 6 different lines. So we now have our own Plamski fancy red tiger line here at the house. And then we have some pure white lines from Plamski, not to be confused in the house with Shelby's Snow White crystals, if you haven't noticed that in the entire video. But yeah, Shelby's got some really nice ones. Plamski also has his own line, and really excited to be working with these again. Had them once upon a time, but not from his direct source. So these guys are right behind us here in the video too. We should say Plamskis and Shelby's up there if it's not clear enough for you guys. And then we've got a tank of pure red line that is of course divided down the middle, so there's pure red lines in both sections. And then we've got basically the exact same thing for the pure black line on the tank down below. And then we've got some really nice Black Galaxy Pintos. It's just a smorgasbord of genetics here in this tank. And then in this tank, we've got some orange-eyed steels. These guys are super cool. Plamski left these behind so he could work with these a little bit more. He wanted to fine-tune them and just get some really nice photos before he had to let these go. And then we've got a cull tank, everything from red steels all the way up to some of the really nice orange-eyed blue steels that we just saw. And then we've got some more nice galaxies, but there's also some culls in here, so pretty much a mixed tank. And then we've got some black zebra tie bee. I didn't say pintos because there's no dots on the head, but these are German pinto line basically. Just needs a few more dots, spottings on the heads, and these things will be real nice. And in this tank, we've got the reds. Again, not pintos, not spotting on the head, but still some real nice zebra stripes. And then we got some more red galaxies. There's a ton of galaxies in this video. And then we have Shelby's favorites of the whole room, the orange-eyed red devils. Now that's a lot of shrimp. And now's the hard part, tearing down the whole shrimp room. This literally hurt to do. I had to take away somebody else's dream by breaking it all down. And well, Plamski, I really hope you get back in the hobby. I'd love to just send all of this back your way as soon as possible. And well, basically to take out everything, we went ahead, got some clean water first, and then took out the moss, all of the tubes, the substrate towers, and also the filters. That way the tanks were barren with just the shrimp. It made it easier for us to catch them all. We had to make a quick run to Walmart though to get some larger nets. Definitely saved some time there and went through, caught all the shrimp we could except for like the one rack and a couple of tanks that Plamski still really wanted to work with. He was planning on sending them to me all at the end of the month. However, he did set up some temporary tanks inside, so hopefully he holds on to the hobby. Even if he ends up moving, he'll end up staying in the hobby and keeping things going because Plamski, you really did an amazing job. I can truly say you're a master Caridina breeder. Then we got the shrimp all caught, bagged up, into the car, and drove home another 4.5 hours so we can acclimate them all in our house And of course, all of these shrimp will be available very soon if they're not already on the website, tgoeshrimp.com. And very soon we'll also have a range of Plamski products because he already has his own line. And well, I love the story, I love supporting, and if I can keep him in it, well, selling some of his products, and they're really great products too. We've been using the GH minerals here at the house now for over a week, and well, everything's really smooth. I love the way they all integrate with our system, and it's all pretty much exactly what we're doing, just with a different variety, liquids instead of minerals, and different kinds of foods. So we'll be having those in the future, so stay tuned. And that's going to do it for this video. Thank you everybody for watching. Show your support in the comments down for Plamski, and well, stay tuned. We got a lot planned, a lot more coming. Now, for real, it's time to start on Shelby's Fish Room.